as a way of appreciating the young ones who are beginning to establish the family unit, Gaddafi used to thank them with a piece of land. Today, Gaddafi is an enemy because he stood against apartheid and associated with all African countries that were fighting against colonialism. Gaddafi is an enemy today because he stood with the people of Palestine. Immediately when Gaddafi died, we saw Africans being taken by force in Libya as slaves, even post-colonial period. After Gaddafi died, Libya, which we're told it was under dictatorship and the most brutal man, has never known peace. It is under the group of warlords, it is under the group of terrorists, under the militia, and the people who are forcing themselves into power through a barrel of a gun. Today, one of the most unstable countries is DRC. Lumumba did.
Welcome and thank you for watching. This is Afro Revolt. I want you to watch this Julius Malema's video castigating the Western powers in ensuring the African continent is never woken up. Let us watch this and make a reaction in the end.
There will never be a discussion about the security and good governance in Africa without acknowledging the damage that has been caused by colonizers and the imperialist forces. Africa's inability to be peace with herself, it is necessitated by the fact that colonialists want to exploit our minerals without being held accountable. It is the colonialists who are corrupting the leadership of Africa and making sure that those who are not corrupt are replaced by the corrupt puppets who will allow colonialism to continue in the African continent. Any battle you can imagine anywhere in the continent, it has got everything else to do with those who colonized us before. Today, they want to choose who are the leaders for African people. As we stand here today, Gaddafi should be an enemy of our people, according to the declaration of the Western imperialism, because Gaddafi stood for our people. Today, Mugabe, who was a darling, if you think Mandela was loved, you must revisit your history and check when Mugabe was becoming the president of Zimbabwe after the defeat of Rhodesia. He was the most celebrated man. He was loved by everybody until he started questioning the issue of the land, that the land must be transferred from the colonizer to the people of Zimbabwe. But when he was not advocating for that, especially after the Lancaster resolution, they thought he's one such a gentleman who will allow them to do as they wish, until he realized that he was going to pass on without transferring the means of production into the hands of our people. Today, every African leader who served for a very long time in Africa, we are told is a fascist, is undemocratic, this person is a dictator. But such words were never said about Queen Elizabeth, who ruled for more than 50 years. And it's not just monarchy, like a Zulu monarchy or Abatembu monarchy. It's a monarchy that has got powers on the political systems of Britain. There is no any prime minister in Britain who can proceed with anything else politically without the go-ahead of the Queen, now the King. No one of those prime ministers can declare a war. Only the Queen or the King can declare a war. But that person has never been democratically elected. That person has got no term of office. They serve until the grave. and they are not called fascists and dictators. They do so with our leaders because they want to impose on us the imperialist bourgeois democracy. That democracy is when you go for 5 years and you are done. But as young people who are engaged in this space, you have a duty to ask yourself, how did we govern ourselves in the earlier primitive society before the arrival of the colonialist? And we're not asking here of an ancient history. Very recent, you'll realize that we were able to govern ourselves without being dictated to by the white people in terms of how we must govern ourselves. Today, we must be told that a good governance is a governance that complies with IMF or World Bank. Anything else outside that, even if your people are benefiting, you are not a good leader. Actually, you are a dictator. Let's go back to Gaddafi himself before he was killed by imperialist forces. Gaddafi nationalized the oil industry when he took over Libya. And he made sure that the people of Libya receive free health care and housing. The people of Libya actually used to get a piece of land for getting married. That's why many of you will remain single, because you realize there's going to be a problem here. I'm going to marry someone, and where are we going to stay? As a way of appreciating the young ones who are beginning to establish the family unit, Gaddafi used to thank them with a piece of land. Today, Gaddafi is an enemy because he stood against apartheid and associated with all African countries that were fighting against colonialism. Gaddafi is an enemy today because he stood with the people of Palestine. Immediately when Gaddafi died, we saw Africans being taken by force in Libya as slaves, even post-colonial period. After Gaddafi died, Libya, which we're told it was under dictatorship and the most brutal man, has never known peace. It is under the group of warlords. It is under the group of terrorists, under the militia, and the people who are forcing themselves into power through a barrel of a gun. Today, one of the most unstable countries is DRC. Lumumba did not serve too long, because when Lumumba came in, they realized that this guy is going to create independence in the DRC, where the most strategic minerals are found. Since the passing of Lumumba till to date, DRC has never known peace. They will never know peace because those who are exploiting the resources of that area are the ones who are sponsoring the rebels in that area. They don't want authorities in DRC, because authorities will mean that we must also control the airspace of Libya. And when you control the airspace, you know which plane came in to do what and went out at what time. They are sponsoring rebels, doing land strips in the forests, where they land and take the minerals undetected and leave DRC. Today, DRC was supposed to be one of the most richest countries, but the imperialist forces will not allow it to be. So Sankara was killed. And when you think Sankara was killed by his friend, that one was just the one who pulled the trigger. But there are brains behind that man who pulled the trigger, who, by the way, was a friend of Sankara. Burkina Faso would have been one of the most beautiful countries in Africa had Sankara lived long. The man who said to his people, here is the land, you must produce for the government and produce for yourself. Sankara who loved education. Sankara who gave our people health care. Sankara who knew that there will never be total liberation of people if women are not liberated themselves. Sankara who knew that a political activist must be equipped with theory of politics, because a soldier with a gun without political theory is a potential criminal. That's why political education is always important. Sankara who said, I'm not going to be part of borrowing money from IMF and the World Bank. So these leaders, I'm singling some of them out because I want to demonstrate to you that those who seek good for us did not stay long.
Now, from this Julius Malema's point of action, it suggests that the poverty situation in Africa is choreographed by the white man, and the white man is always after ensuring that they milk, or rather get all resources that belong to Africa and enrich themselves at the expense of the Africans. That is what the Pan-Africanist spirits such as this one of Julius Malema, PLO Lumumba, Paul Kagame have been fighting. Now there's this narration that they even ensured that they built bad picture, or rather they smeared Muammar Gaddafi to be one of the worst rulers in Africa, to a point that Africans started hating him and seeing him as an enemy. Yet he was just behind the unity of Africa and ensuring that we get a borderless society where we can use one currency and there is free trade. That would also mean that Africans would move forward as a society and in unison to gain in the global level. So what does it mean for Africans in the near future? It calls for immediate action and immediate strategies to ensure that we rebuild or we nurture leaders who are towards building a good African state and who are never puppets of the whites, those who are not corrupt, those who are not imposed on us by the white man through their dealings. Now, if you watch keenly, the most rulers in Africa have their bank accounts offshore and they keep a lot of resources and money there in their accounts. What does it mean to Africa? Yet we need our economies to grow and cash flow to be enhanced. It means that the level of poverty is still rising, and the puppets, these people who are being used, they never care about what Africans will feel in the end. All they look at is what benefits them, or rather their interest. It has come a time when the real African man should stand up and tell the leaders that this is enough. Enough is enough, because we want Africa to rise, we want Africa to become the best continent across the globe, and we want to compete even in the business sphere. We don't want to be controlled, we don't want to be made slaves. This is the time and this is the moment. Now, if you're watching us, I urge you to share your comments on this video. Also subscribe to this great channel so that we have a continued engagement and ways of getting a notification when we bring a new video. Thank you, and as always, may God bless you.